Hello everybody, welcome to another edition of the Shiur. We'd like to thank our sponsors for this week, and we'd also like to wish a refuah shlema to Ram ben Sarah Gital, and the Shiur should be Le'ilui Nishmat David ben Simcha Ruach Hashem Tenichenu B'Gan Eden. Today we're going to talk about one of the most often quoted psukim in the whole Torah, which is in this week's parasha, Parasha Kedoshim. And the pasuk reads, "Ve'ahavta la'recha kamocha," translates to, "You shall love your friend as you love yourself." The Gemara tells us, "Ve'ahavta la'recha kamocha," ze klal gadol b'Torah. Rabbi Akiva tells us this. This is a big rule in the Torah. Now, I think that the common way of understanding this is that this is a very important mitzvah, and therefore it has some sort of a priority, and that may be true. I'd like to suggest an alternative explanation. Ze klal gadol b'Torah. Klal means a rule. That means that ve'ahavta l'recha kamocha is actually a rule which is to be applied throughout the rest of the Torah. All mitzvot are to be have to have this rule of ve'ahavta l'recha kamocha applied to them. And the question is, how is it that this mitzvah of loving your friend like you love yourself, how is that connected to mitzvot like tefillin, tzitzit, lulav, sukkah, brachot? What does that have to do with anything? How can that be a rule in all the other mitzvot? Another question that we have to ask is that this mitzvah demands of us something which seems to be impossible. We're expected to love somebody else the same way that we love ourselves. We love ourselves more than anybody can imagine, more than anything in the world. How can we be expected by Hashem to love somebody else, maybe even a stranger, another Jew, in the same way that we love ourselves? Surely we take care of ourselves better than we're going to take care of somebody else. And furthermore, we know that Rabbi Akiva is the one who says, Ze klal gadol b'Torah. It's a big rule in the Torah. But Rabbi Akiva himself tells us that the halacha is, if you have two people in a desert and there's only one bottle of water, and there's only enough water for one person to survive, and you are holding the bottle of water, you drink the water, and the person who's traveling with you is left to die. That is what Rabbi Akiva says is the halacha. And how can he say ve'ahavta l'recha kamocha is a klal gadol b'Torah? This is not ve'ahavta l'recha kamocha at all. So surely Rabbi Akiva is the antithesis to this mitzvah, and this all needs to be understood. Now, where I'd like to start is with the topic of the sotah. The sotah is a lady, a married lady, who is accused by her husband of promiscuous behavior. And the Torah tells us that in such a case, certain steps are taken where the lady ends up in the Beit HaMikdash, and she drinks from this concoction called the mei sotah, the waters of the sotah. And in this concoction are a few different herbs and ingredients, and one of the ingredients is a piece of paper with the parasha of sotah written on it, and included in the parasha of sotah is Hashem's name. Now inevitably when you put this piece of paper in the water, in the liquid, the name of HaKadosh Baruch Hu is going to be erased. Erasing the name of Hashem is an isur deoraita. It's a biblical prohibition. It's one of the 613 mitzvot, not allowed to erase Hashem's name. But over here, the Torah tells us that you are entitled to erase Hashem's name in order that this water should check the sotah. Now the Torah tells us that when she drinks this water, one of two things can happen. If she's innocent and she did not have an affair on with another man, then what's going to happen is she'll get a bracha. She's going to have more beautiful children, or she'll get pregnant. If she couldn't get pregnant, there's going to be a more positive atmosphere in the home. And in the event that she's guilty, then the water is actually going to have an adverse effect. And the Torah tells us many unpleasantries in connection with what will happen to her if she drinks this water. So the mei sotah is some sort of a test to check, to make sure that she's innocent, or to see if she's guilty. The question is, surely, as we said, erasing Hashem's name is a biblical prohibition, isur d'oraita. Why is it allowed in order for this lady to be checked? What is that? What's the heter for that? So the Gemara answers that in order for a husband and a wife to have shalom bayit, to have peace between each other, for things to be better in the home, Hashem's name is allowed to be erased. Hashem says, I will allow you to erase my name. I will give up of myself, so to speak, so that you can have a happy home together with your husband. But still the question is, we understand that a happy home is important and Shalom Bayit is very crucial. However, erasing Hashem's name is asur. You're not allowed to do that. You can't just decide when to perform mitzvot and when not to perform mitzvot. Isn't that right? So how come Hashem allows this? And furthermore, the whole basis of allowing the erasure of Hashem's name is based on a safek. It's a doubt. She might actually be guilty, in which case the name of Hashem was erased in a situation which did not produce Shalom Bayit. So this might not even work. This is just an experiment. So HaKadosh Baruch Hu is allowing His name to be erased for a reason which we don't seem to be able to justify. And all this only based on a safek, based on a doubt. It's not certain that it's going to actually work. So it seems to me that the answer to all these questions here by the Sotah is that this idea of Shalom Bayit, of peace in the home, I would assume stems, if you had to find the pasuk in the Torah that talks about peace in the home, I would say it's Ve'ahavta Lira'cha Kamocha. You have to love your friend as you love yourself. Your spouse, I would hope, is considered your friend. And therefore, when Rabbi Akiva tells us, Ze klal gadol b'Torah, this is a rule in the Torah, so what that does is it defines and it gives specifics to each mitzvah in the Torah, and so too with the Meisotah. Meaning, when there is Shalom Bayit on the line, and a man and a wife can have a better relationship, HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, Ve'ahavta Lira'cha Kamocha, that is going to now override and dictate when you can and when you cannot erase my name. So there will be circumstances when you can actually erase Hashem's name, which is prohibited, because of Ve'ahavta Lira'cha Kamocha. That mitzvah dictates when the isur of erasing Hashem's name is true and when it is irrelevant. So let's give a few examples of this. For example, tefillin. How is Ve'ahavta Lira'cha Kamocha a rule in tefillin? Tefillin, we wear it every day. What does it have to do with your friend? So maybe one example could be, some people wear the pair of tefillin. It's two tefillin on the head. Maybe some of you have never seen it before. It's two tefillin, two boxes that you put on your head. The rule is that you're supposed to cover it up. Why are you covering up one of them? So that you look like the rest of the people in the congregation. You don't want to look arrogant. You have to take your friends into account. They are not wearing these tefillin. These tefillin are for people on a very high level of Kiddusha. And the rest of the people that you're praying with are not on that level of Kiddusha. And therefore, Ve'ahavta Lira'cha Kamocha, appreciate that your friend might feel a little bit inferior as a result of you wearing this tefillin. So the halacha is you cover it up. Don't show off that you are wearing two tefillin. Also, let's say, for example, this is a suggestion. Let's say you have, Baruch Hashem, you have enough money to buy a very mehudar, a beautiful, a good pair of tefillin. I don't know how much they go for. My son's not bar mitzvah yet. But let's say a very good, top-of-the-line pair of tefillin is $1,500. Let's say that that's a price. And you have the money in hand ready to buy it, and you know that you have a friend that he can't even afford a very simple pair of tefillin for him or for his son. So, Ve'ahavta Lira'cha Kamocha, there would probably tell us, I would imagine, that what you should do is give up on your hidur, on your excess, the best pair of tefillin. Take half of the money, use it for a simple pair, and give the other half to your friend, so that he can at least have a simple pair of tefillin. Ve'ahavta Lira'cha Kamocha. HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants you to have the best pair of tefillin. He demands that of us. But the best pair of tefillin in this circumstance is going to be the simple pair, because otherwise your friend is going to be left with nothing. So that is a rule that dictates the mitzvot. Also we find, Ochiach tochiach et amecha, there's a mitzvah to rebuke your friend. If you see somebody that's doing something that is clearly an Aveirah, then provided he's going to listen, we have a mitzvah, a commandment, to rebuke that person, to tell him that what he's doing is wrong, and that he should consider not doing that avera. But the end of the pasuk tells us, "V'lo tisa alav chet," do not carry upon you a sin. Rebuke your friend, don't carry a sin upon you. So what does that mean? The Chachamim explained to us that you do have a mitzvah to rebuke your friend, that's for sure. However, you must do it in such a way that it's not going to end up with you carrying a sin. How will you carry a sin? If you embarrass your friend when you rebuke him, that is a sin. Ve'ahavta la'reacha kamocha, love your friend like yourself. Even when you're keeping a mitzvah, you're doing what Hashem wants, it has to be within the parameters of ve'ahavta la'reacha kamocha. Don't embarrass him, don't do it in public, don't tell him in such a way that he's going to feel isolated and feel like he's a bad person. Do it the right way. If you can't do it the right way, don't do it at all, because Ve'ahavta L'Reacha Kamocha tells us not to carry a sin, not to embarrass. And sometimes, and I don't want to get into this too much, or at all rather, but the Gemara does tell us in several places in Shas that sometimes there's even a prohibition in the Torah that can be completely disregarded because of something called kavod habriot, honor, dignity of people. So that could have things to do with the bathroom, things to do with, let's say, there's kilayim, there's shatnez in a person's clothes, and he's walking in the street and he discovers he's wearing shatnez. So should he take off his clothes in the middle of the street? No. Ve'ahavta l'reacha kamocha, kavod habriot, is much more important than this mitzvah according to Hashem. Now, of course, this is not to be taken out of context. This is not to say that whenever I feel uncomfortable or whenever my friend feels discomfort, that I should therefore just push off all the mitzvot. Everything has to be done within a spectrum, and a Rav should be consulted when we feel that doing this mitzvah might infringe on Ve'ahavta L'Reacha Kamocha. This is a topic which has to be understood and expanded upon. You can speak to your local Orthodox rabbi, not your biology teacher. Now, according to what we're all saying over here, maybe we can suggest the following. We asked, how can you love a friend the same way that you love yourself? Surely that's impossible. So maybe the answer lies in maybe a misunderstanding of what it means to love. What does it mean that we love ourselves? So I think that the definition that we jump to is loving ourselves means we take care of ourselves. We go, we get our nails done, or we'll go and buy ourselves a new suit. These are things that we do for ourselves because we feel that we deserve it. And therefore the question is obviously, what, you expect me to take care of my friend the same way that I take care of myself? So maybe that's not the way to learn the pasuk. Maybe the way to understand Ve'ahavta, loving your friend, is the way that Hillel HaZaken explains in Masechet Brachot. Hillel HaZaken, we know the story. Somebody came to him, a goy, and said, I want you to teach me the whole Torah on one leg. And Hillel HaZaken told him, I'll tell you the whole Torah. This is the Torah in one sentence. Mai desani lach, that which you hate, lechavrech al ta'aved, to your friend you shall not do. Don't be a hypocrite. Don't do something to someone that you wouldn't want done to yourself. That is basically a paraphrase of Ve'ahavta L'Reacha Kamocha. And I think what Hillel Zaken is doing here is he's explaining to us, Ve'ahavta L'Reacha doesn't mean you buy him things. It doesn't mean you treat him out to a fancy lunch at Cafe Sheli. It means that you treat him the way that you would want to be treated. So if that's the case, then I think it's very easy to love somebody else the same way that you love yourself. If you see yourself in that person, and moreover, you see Hashem in that person, because every Jew is a tzelem Elokim, as we've spoken about. He's an image of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So it's very easy to look at another Jew and say, I want him to have the best. I want to care for him. Doesn't mean I have to buy him a suit. It doesn't mean I have to buy him all these fancy things that I buy for myself. Doesn't mean he has to have a beautiful house like I do. That's not what that means. What it means is that you have to be sensitive towards him. When you are performing your mitzvot, when you are serving Hashem, Zek klal gadol ba Torah. This is a big rule in the Torah, that when you are doing the mitzvot of the Torah, you have to take your friend into consideration. Don't think that you can just do whatever you want and be all religious and orthodox and be very spiritual and ignore everybody else. You have to love your friend like you love yourself. Treat him the way you want to be treated. And finally, in conclusion, we said that Rabbi Akiva told us a psak halacha, that if you have one bottle of water and there's two people, you drink the water and the other guy dies. Where is the ואהבת לרעך כמוך? Where is that? And I think the answer to that is that we have to learn the pasuk again. ואהבת לרעך כמוך, like yourself, like you, not more than you. Don't love your friend more than you love yourself. Put yourself first. Chayecha kodmin, says the Gemara over there. Your life comes first. Your physical life, your spiritual life. You do not have to sacrifice your levels of spirituality, or certainly not your physical life, just because your friend also wants the same thing. If it means that you have to go down, then your friend is not allowed to go up. You can't allow him to have that. Kamocha, if it can be equal, if you can both have the same, fantastic. But if that means that you have to give up something of yourself and even your entire life, then of course that's not expected of you. Kamocha doesn't mean more than you, it means just like you. And so we hope that we've had some clarity in this pasuk. I want to thank everybody for listening and the sponsors once again. We'll see you next week.